Hello everyone. Sit back and prepare to enjoy this talk from Devfest Montreal.
Should we get started? All right. Yes, please. There we go. I'm the only thing standing between you and door prizes. So we'll get going. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to see if I can do this microphone and clicker and not fall off the stage thing. Bonus points for anybody betting on me falling off the stage. You get a win there. Okay, so show of hands, how many of you make products for other people to use? Define that however you want. Okay, most of you. Most of those things at this point in 2025 probably have some AI in them. Probably. Okay. So, hi, my name is Bryce, and I am not a prompt engineer. Okay? We have an entire title for prompting. When you think about people who are good at prompting, get those people in your head, think about them. Good at prompting. What do they look like? Right? Your grandmother? That's who you thought of that first, right? Okay. Somebody's kid? Come on, where are all the prompters? Where's everyone? How about this one? The gamer streaming on Twitch, lots of time to prompt, right? Please don't shoot me. I'm prompting. Okay, so I decided to ask Gemini what a prompt engineer looks like. That wasn't what I was expecting at all, but okay, sure. I do think that the glowing computer that isn't a computer sort of gives something away here. This sort of idea that prompts are a thing, a way we interact with computers. And the funny thing is, if you look at any of the AI tools today, this is exactly how we interact with them, right? There's a big box that has text. Hopefully I put in some text, and then something happens. Magic. It's pretty cool. I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about why I think this is bad and what we can do better. Okay? So, to get here though, we have to do a little bit of a brief history of all of time. Okay, wait, that was Stephen Hawking, not me. We'll just do interface. What do you think of when you think of interface? My guess is you think of a screen. It's got some buttons on it. Anybody think of the elevator that you took to get here? That's an interface. How about the chair you're sitting in? Interface, right? All of these things, like we look at this and we say that's an interface. That's the modern interpretation of interface. I would like to point out that interface has existed in this format for quite a while. It's not really that different, okay? Here's the, Gemini term for what is user interface. I kind of liked it. It's how we interact with a machine or a system. Okay? So interface has had a lot of different iterations throughout the years. Unlike Stephen Hawking, I am not going to write a book about this. We'll try to get done in a couple hours. Okay? Let's start here. Every time I give this talk, somebody in the audience has used punch cards. Anybody here? Yeah, there we go. We got somebody who's I'm 10 for 10 so far. Punch cards are an interesting interface, right? There's some pros and cons to these things. The really interesting pro to a punch card is that, well, it's binary, right? The punch card is working exactly the way the computer thinks. There's a few problems with them, right? Fast is probably not a term you would have used. They're hard to change. And there's actually a pretty limited command scope you can do, right? Because you're chaining all of these commands together. So we all got together and we thought, well, punch cards might not be the right answer. Maybe we should start putting text into a computer. That's cool. Right, I get these little green words on a black screen. There's some pros and cons again. Pros, these are words I use, right? This is language. I'm interacting in a way that I expect to. However, it's a little bit difficult to remember what commands I can use. Right? I can talk to it, but what can it do? What is possible? You can chain things together, but it's very linear, right? Like you're stuck in a very strict process when you do this. But on the upside, it's fast, and you get a lot of power from it. Cool, right? Pinnacle of computer UI. No? Okay, well, we thought maybe if we add some color, maybe if we give you menus, right? Maybe it'll get better. I don't know if it did. I'm going to go with no. Enter the graphical user interface. I love this ad. Read some of that text. The headline, though, this is coming from an era of mainframes and expensive computers and those text interfaces you were seeing. So Apple is introducing a computer for the non-computer people, right? So that's pretty cool. Apple's doing a good job with this. They have that mouse thing, right? If you can point, you can use a Macintosh. Apple is changing the way we interact with the computer, and that's great. Until, well, this. I don't know why 3D applications just look like this. That's Autodesk's Maya. I think I had a seizure trying to figure out which button to click. But you're starting to understand some of the problems we have with the graphical user interface, right? So we've got something that's kind of complex to memorize. We have the problem that symbols don't necessarily mean the same things to everybody, right? Limited screen space. It's slow and distracting, right? I actually have to move this mouse pointer around and click on the next thing, and it sort of distracts me from what I was doing. So we all got together and we thought, hey, what if we did better? What if we made interfaces explorative? There's no wrong answer. You can play. Anyone else enjoy not paying attention to Google I/O and doing this instead? That's pretty much what happened, right? We all went fishing and then gave up because we realized that that was all you could do. All right, well, maybe we can do better. Maybe we can put interface on all the things around us. I've seen Minority Report. I know where this is going to go. There's going to be ads on every surface I look at. But for now, we have this sort of mixture between a graphical user interface and the environment around us. We call it XR. But the idea here is that you start to surface information in the places that it's important and use it when it's valuable. Great, I love that idea. Pros and cons. Anybody starting to see a pattern here? I am. These are complex, they're hard to produce, right? Somebody has to decide that every time I see a flat wall, I should have directional arrows, or every time I see a stop sign, it should do something. There's a big load to producing that. The cool part, though, is that it's kind of removing all that information clutter, and it's only showing me information when I care. That's valuable, right? But it still has a lot of inherent issues. So, guess what? We tried again. I think it's kind of cool that all the way back, what is that date there, 2014, Cortana stopped hanging out with Master Chief and became the assistant on your computer. But all of these voice assistants, right, looked to remove the interface that we had with words, now they're just words in the air instead of words on a screen. They look to remove the graphical user interface complexities of not enough screen real estate. Did it make it better? I don't know, right? This is certainly handy if you're in the kitchen cooking and you need to set a timer or something like that, and you have dirty hands. It's helpful if you're driving. There are plenty of places where it's useful, but you'll notice that we have basically the same problems that we had with a text interface, right? What can I tell it? What will it do? How do I know? How do I remember those things? Anybody notice that we've gone full circle? Prompt is really just the text interface that we had a while ago in a slightly different format. Okay. I put this up here. This definition is obviously wrong for what you're thinking of with prompting. Note that it is oddly accurate. Prompting is not what we would consider prompt, right? There's a lot there. It takes time. It takes mental energy. But we're creating all of these systems. We're calling them prompts, and we are asking people to start interacting with computers this way. That's fine, right? But look at what it takes to make a good prompt. I'm guessing all of these things, earlier when we thought about this, your grandparents, your neighbors, your friends, all of the non-tech community that you interact with, think that, wow, I'll just write a prompt. It'll be easy. None of them are following any of these tasks, any of these instructions, right? They're just throwing things in the text box and hoping something comes back. It's magic. He gets it. I don't really think that this is where we should be going, personally. And let me tell you why. One, humans don't necessarily approach a task by asking questions. They approach a task with a goal in mind, right? When we give you a big text field that says, prompt here, we're kind of hoping that you know what questions to ask. Honestly, I don't think anybody really does. But we get this structure of, ask me about a trip you want to go on. Well, that's not really how I do that. I say, well, on Friday, I'd like to travel to this place and hopefully not pay an arm and a leg and preferably bring a correct jacket for the weather, right? I wasn't asking this, I was telling it, I was directing it. Humans don't function that way. Computers do, right? And additionally, when we do ask for things, we're kind of bad at asking for what we want. So, show of hands, how many of you walked into your manager's office and said, I deserve a raise? Recently, yesterday, last week? No one? None of you deserve a raise? Are we really that bad at asking for what we want? I would say we are, right? And if we ask for what we want, what happens when we don't provide the detail that we should? It's a birthday cake. Let's talk about birthdays. Long ago in a galaxy far, far away, I turned 16. For my birthday, I said, Mom and Dad, I'm going to get my driver's license. I'd like a car. Fair enough, right? I left it at that. Now, you need to understand, when I was getting my driver's license, car culture was sort of crazy. Everybody had posters like this. I may have had one or two of those posters on my wall in my room. 16-year-old me would have loved a Ferrari. Add to the fact that we didn't have cell phones to entertain us, so instead, someone somewhere thought it would be a great idea for teenagers to sniff a lot of glue and paint and create these plastic models. You could go into just about any store and find all kinds of plastic models like this, further pushing that car culture. Okay? So, I didn't think I was necessarily getting a Ferrari for my birthday, but I thought maybe, a 70s muscle car, Jeep Wrangler, lifted, ready to go off-roading. It's probably what I'm going to get, right? Anybody remember Dodge Quality? Probably the coolest car Chrysler ever made. Those of you remembering this, don't worry. I didn't actually get this car. No. I got the Dodge Quality's slower, more annoying cousin, the Chrysler New Yorker. Anyone here who's imagining their grandparents' sofa with wheels? That's it, right there. It's an amazing car. I wasn't very detailed in my ask, right? I assumed that my parents somehow had the same car in mind that I did. Not really, right? On the upside, I did win out a little bit. This was a 1984 Chrysler New Yorker. It had the odd ability to say that it was one of the first, or maybe only, talking cars. Now, I know you're all thinking Kit from Knight Rider. Not really that. It did things like tell you that the door was open, or the lights were on, or the windshield wipers were going, or if your car was like mine, it said the lights are on when the door was open, and the windshield wipers were going when you were out of gas. More or less, you figured it out. Most of the out of gas part was pretty easy. But it was a talking car, right? That's pretty cool. So I got this thing. Yay, my request was fulfilled. Okay. Well, how about the things we don't say? When we talk about prompting, we talk a lot about context, right? Give the thing context. Why do we talk about that? Why do I have to say, give the prompt context? It's because humans communicate so well with shared context, shared history, shared understanding. In fact, much of what we say, we don't actually say, right? If I ask any of you, what's it like outside? You're probably going to tell me about the weather. You're going to say it's been raining all day, certain temperature, might want a jacket, things like that. If I ask a computer, what's it like outside, it's going to be like, well, there's grass and some air stuff, and then there's like rocks and things. Maybe there's people and buildings, and I don't know. My model says that there's a lot of things outside. What's it like outside, right? Language works very well for this, but we don't do it, right? So these prompts get stuck in this what's not said. There's a really important thing here that we also don't have, and that is a shared history. Some of the tools are starting to try to remember who you are. It's a different conversation whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. But it's a lot different than a trip that I've taken with my family, right? Or the jokes that I share with my college roommate, right? These interactions can't work this way just because it doesn't have that shared history with us, and it never will. And then we get to this problem of language itself is also inexact. This is a funny English term. I'm going to apologize, my French is not very good, but boot in English is, well, complicated, as you can see. So we have this problem where you can say things and it's very easy to interpret things poorly. And then on top of all of that, like if all of that wasn't enough, most of our conversations actually lack a lot of detail. Okay? I had breakfast at this little cafe a while ago, and I thought, well, Gemini's pretty good at making pictures. In fact, we've got like Nano Banana that's amazing, right? So I thought, what if I told it to make me a picture of the breakfast that I had? You know what? That looks really good. My breakfast did not look like that. And I thought, well, maybe I can do better. What if I give it the menu description for the breakfast I had? Then it'll knock it out of the park, right? It's got some arugula and an egg and, sourdough. Sure, right? Again, my breakfast didn't look like this. My breakfast was delicious, but it looked like that. Right? We lack this ability to create the right kind of detail to give the stuff the structure that we want. Okay. What that means, this is perfect for today, is that AI tools act like the monkey's paw. Anybody familiar with that story? Okay. This is sort of a precursor to the genie stories and things like that. But the idea is essentially there's this talisman, this monkey's paw, that gives 3 wishes, but it is allowed to fulfill those wishes in any way it sees fit. So farmer asks for money. What happens is his son dies in an accident, and he's given money by compensation for that accident. Okay. Feeling absolutely horrible that his son has died, the farmer then asks the monkey's paw to, bring his son back. Late at night, Halloween, the wind is blowing, it's dark and scary outside, and there's a scratching at the door, right? And so the farmer and his wife assume that the resurrected son is a monster of some kind. Pick your zombie, pick your werewolf, pick your whatever. And so the third and final wish that they use is for the monster outside to go away. Right? We are ending up with AI that is working similar to a monkey's paw for us very much because of the way we prompt it, the questions we ask, and what we want it to do. Even worse, the more you prompt something, the more likely it is that the AI tool goes off the rails. I was talking to one of the PMs on the Gemini Nano Banana project, and she was mentioning that for whatever reason, Gemini just decided that she had earbuds in every picture. It didn't matter what the context was or the subject, like just always has earbuds. Couldn't break it out. So we get into these paths that take what might have been a misunderstanding to start with and turn it into something else entirely. And then we struggle to break out of that. Where did we get here, though? Like, why did we decide, hey, prompting? I have a theory. I don't have any collaborating evidence on this, though I think most of you will agree with me. We unfortunately have almost 100 years of science fiction that tells us exactly what an AI or robot should be, right? I would love it if Jarvis lived in my house. That'd be great. But we look at AI and prompting and voice assistants and things like that, and we're like, oh, well, that's a fail, because it's not Jarvis. Okay. That's all fine and good. That's where we're at today. What do we do about it? This is what I think we should do about it. I think that we should find a different way to interact with AI. Maybe not for all of us, but for my parents, my friends, my neighbors, all those people that did not appear in your mental image of a prompt engineer at the beginning. I'm going to give Adobe some prompts here. This is Adobe Firefly. It's several versions old. But you notice that in addition to the prompt window at the bottom, it actually shows, it gives you a little bit more context. I'm going to see if I can Whoop. Not that, obviously. There we go, these guys right here. Notice how you get a little bit of ability to finesse the prompt with traditional UI. I personally believe that is a very good solution to some of the prompting problems we have. It doesn't solve it because the prompt is still there, but it gives us something to start with. What else could we do? I was playing with, I've been playing with Cursor quite a bit. I've been playing with AI and dev tools. Anybody else using any of these things? I'm guessing you're playing with them at least a little bit, right? And so what we get, again, is we get a prompt window. It says, ask me a question. Gemini, did I write crappy code? Right, most of us aren't asking that, right? I write good code. It always does exactly what I told it to. So we've got that, but what if instead, proactively, these tools could look at what we're doing and say, hey, that looks like a race condition, don't do that. Right? You don't want this. This is what's going to happen. If we could proactively look at network calls or anything like that and start to use the tools as a way to catch us and give us guardrails. None of that would require a prompt. If you want to fix it, it might, but the getting started part doesn't require a prompt. Let's take that to another step. I was in Calgary a while ago. I don't know Calgary very well. We went and saw some mountains. It was great. And then I was like, okay, now what? All right, I could write this prompt. I could go figure out something to do with my wife. That's hard, though. What if instead I was provided an interface, something like this? Anybody play Mad Libs when they were a kid or recently? That's basically what this is, right? Except that this is giving me a way to create a prompt behind the scenes. This gives me a structure to help people who are not good at writing prompts write prompts. The best part is you could even use AI tools to decide what goes into those drop-downs. Right? You can hide all of that away and still get all the cool benefits of these AI tools. I think this is what's really interesting about that. This type of input is basically what you would see behind the scenes for that little Mad Libs game. You can have chain of thought. You can interact with a database. You can keep track of the food preferences. You can do all these things for somebody that we would do with an agent and all that stuff, but we can hide it away so that the prompt isn't in the way. This is a really cool thing. I'm a Google developer expert for the web platform. Really recently, Google has started doing what they call built-in AI. It's a Gemini Nano model. It lives 100% inside the browser. Nothing goes out. But what it does is it exposes a JavaScript API to, you guessed it, write a prompt. But here's what's cool about that. It's a JavaScript API. I have to get the prompt from somewhere. Sure, I could put a text field on the screen and say, come on, just give me a prompt. We have all the problems that we just talked about. Or I can create a UI that sits on top of this and writes good prompts that are helpful, right? Never leaves the browser. It's great. If anybody wants to play with it, I would highly recommend this as it starts to give you a middle layer for the API. Currently, writer, rewriter, proofreader, and I think translation are public. The prompt API might still be in a closed beta. I'm not sure, but those are coming. Anybody wants to see how it works? This is a cool little game that was developed. It still sort of relies on a prompt, but it's doing a lot of the AI stuff behind the scenes. You can kind of see how it hides a little bit of it away. If you hit that QR code, you can get to the repo for this. I will warn you, depending on your computer, it can be quite slow. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer. All right, so my ask as part of all of this is that we realize that the AI tools are what they are, right? Let's use them for where they're good, and let's remember that we still have some other things available, right? So, I don't have a picture of it, but let's say that my little show me an event game returns addresses or places I could go. Most of you are thinking, wow, that's a hallucination waiting to happen. It probably is. You know, though, we have this really cool API. It's called the Google Maps API. Anybody ever heard of it? Why not feed the things that I'm given back from the LLM? Why not just feed those back into a existing tool that we have and validate that they're real? Right? There's a lot of things that we can do if we start to hide that prompt that will create safety, create trust, and kind of help us to go through that process. All right. This is normally where I would ask for questions, but, well, since we're not doing questions anymore, we're not doing prompting, I guess you're kind of stuck, sorry. I'm going to leave you with this. I asked Gemini how exactly I should end this talk. I do apologize, there were not enough car crashes. Next time. All right, and then in all seriousness, if anybody does have questions, feel free. And I think we have another microphone too. And if you don't have questions, that's fine, but I cannot get you prizes any sooner, so it's not me, sorry. Anybody have a question? Anything? We good? I haven't seen any that are marketed that way. There are certainly pieces of tools in different places. DevTools has some stuff where it'll say, like, check this box and get help with whatever. But I haven't seen anything that is purpose-built that way. Careful where you stand over there.
Thank you.
There you go.
So you log in with your Gmail account, and then can the UI take let's say your age, your sex, or whatever, and personalize the UI? Like Gen Z would expect another answer than.
So the question is, can whatever the tool is, Gmail in this example, take you, your attributes, your context, your humanness, and use that to change the UI? And I think the answer is very much yes, and it probably should, right?
No, as a designer, can you use the data, the login data?
Yeah, and currently, no, we can't, right? Because things are so sandboxed. But as a designer, I think you very much should. Like, I think you should be pushing for that sort of an environment where you can use that, right? Even if it's something as small as making the text a little bit larger, because it knows how you typically interact with things or whatever. Or in my case, translating emojis. Like, I have no idea what that's supposed to mean, but somebody tell me what that email was. But yeah, I think we certainly can. We're starting to see some of these, people are trying the layered UIs that are getting to that point where it's a little bit of a, it's content as part of the design stacked on top of interface. And we're getting there, but no, not yet.
Okay, thanks.
Do you think that the use of a natural language in the user interface is causing people to think that computers are more smart than they are? The natural language itself causes that?
Oh, very much so. The question was if I think that the language models and things like that are causing people to have a incorrect perception of their actual intelligence level. I think that, and I'm guessing many of us in this room think that, because we know what's behind the curtain. I do believe that there's this big push for AI in everything, and saying, well, just ask it questions, just have it explain things to you, just have it make sense, does actually push you into that structure where, should it really answer that question for me? Should it be my therapist? Should it be the default answer that I take for everything? Probably not, right? But we've made them so good at, I don't actually think it's the prompt in this case that causes the problem. I think it's the response. We've made them sound so human that when it doesn't act human, we're all confused. But it's a computer, I don't know. But yeah, I think we're very much on that structure. So this is sort of aside from that. What can we do about that? I very much believe that AI should be used as guardrails, not decisions. Right? So surface the things that are wrong with this. If you're a physician and you prescribe a certain amount of a medication, it should say, hey, normally you prescribe a lot less than that. Or normally you prescribe a different medication in these cases. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to tell you you can't. But using it to be that, not a definitive answer, but a catch or something's funny about this, and then letting the human review it, I think is the solution that we start to get to for that. We've gone a long way down the road of, well, you asked the AI, and now you get what you get. That we're not going to be able to reverse that anytime soon. But it does take people thinking about that very specifically.
One of the things that you said, one of the reasons that you gave for explaining why LLMs are so bad are providing like satisfying outputs is that we as humans usually don't provide like enough context. So as you know, LLMs and AI agents support instructions, right, that you can use to customize the requests. Do you see this as an appropriate solution to address that concern?
Very much so, except that nothing comes with a default set, right? I use Cursor all the time. Cursor rules are an amazing structure to solve that problem. But you download Cursor and you open up the section for Cursor rules, and it's just blankness, right? It would be super easy for someone to give me a starter version of that, right? As a newbie coder in this language, always act like this, right? I don't know why we don't do that, personally. Maybe there you go. Maybe we should create a repo of all of those things and start giving people a starting point for them, because I do very much think that is an underused part of this structure.
Thanks.
What was that? No more questions. Apparently, I keep bumping the remote. It works too well. Also, I don't know if you know, you probably can't hear it, but it buzzes, and that confuses me, and then I go backward and all right, that seems like it. Thank you so much. Thank you for all sitting through my talk at the end of the day, being awake. I appreciate it.